Good evening, good evening, good evening. Today is Thursday, May 14th. First question. Why is it the middle of May? I don't know. But somehow we got to May, and I don't know what happened to February and March and April, not to mention January. But here we are, and it's another time, and we're ready to talk about Let's Talk Power Live. Dr. Tangi, so excited to welcome you here. And let me tell y'all right now, today is going to be one of those days, and we're going to have an amazing conversation because I have a guest that I am so thrilled to bring to the stage, and we will bring him out in a few more moments. First things first, you know what the housekeeping is. Number one, like, subscribe, share. Because we know how algorithms work. We are trying to get to 200 subscribers by our second anniversary. Let's Talk Power Live is 2 years old this year. Actually, it's 2 years old today. So we are still trying to get to, yes, we're trying to get to our 200 subscribers. So please go ahead, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and ask two people, actually, no, share this with two people and get them to like, subscribe, and share this out. We are getting to our goal. We're close, and you might be the person to put us over the edge. So that's that. What am I thankful for? I'm thankful for people who are not afraid to fight. Our country is in an interesting time. And I will tell you, I'm nervous about it because in my actual lifetime, I have seen the movement forward and the retraction. And I'm going to be posting about that shortly. So stay tuned for that. But I am grateful for the people who are not afraid to fight, knowing that their fight comes with consequences. That's what I'm thankful for on a Thursday. I'm going to ask you to share what you are thankful for in the chat. If you're give me a comment, let me know. Hey, I'm thankful for what? What are you thankful for today? Come on and go ahead and share some of your ideas with us. We'd love to have you interact. Those comments also really increase our algorithm. So go ahead, like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know where you're coming from. If you're here, I'm in Virginia. So where are you? Would love to have you let us know where you are. So today, I want to talk about a couple of things. Over the last few weeks on Let's Talk Power Live, we have been talking about what it means for us to really look at systems and what happens in these systems when the pressure mounts. We are coming probably just out of some of the statewide assessments, and we know what that pressure cooker looks like and feels like. I've been there. Our guest has been there, and we're going to have him share his ideas with that shortly. But we've been talking a lot about the pressure cooker of schools, particularly this time of year. And one of the areas that we know often takes a back seat is the idea of joy. We know belonging takes a back seat. And here's what we know takes a front seat. We know discipline referrals take a front seat. We know that a lack of agency actually moves backwards instead of forwards. And we know that discipline really increases. And we want to have a really strong conversation about that. And we want to talk about that through the lens of, you guessed it, power. Because power is core to what we talk about here in Let's Talk Power Live. We know that power in education is a real thing, and we know that instructional power is even more real. But here's the other thing. We have to be willing to have a concrete, overt, direct conversation about it. In education, we tend not to. But that's why we have Let's Talk Power Live. So if the idea of power in education resonates with you, please go ahead and write in the comments, power. Let us know what you're thinking about it. And so, as always, going to give you our definition of power, because that's what we talk about every week, our power definition. So here it is. And let's take a look at it. Let's see where that definition is. There it is. So right now, our guest is there. I'm going to take him off because I want to take him back. There we go, because he's supposed to be a surprise. But I want to show you, here's our definition of power in education. It is the instrument of democratic designs, and it is no less the instrument of power. The control of information, the shaping of understanding, and the influence of judgment are critical elements common to democratic design, power theory, and educational philosophy. Every week we talk about that definition, and it doesn't change because power in education also doesn't change. But here is our next definition. Let's talk about understanding instructional power. What is it? It can be understood as an educator's use of their state, district, and building ascribed job related authority to afford or constrain the access to student learning. That's critical. But now, none of these topics, I would say, and I think I'm biased. Actually, I know I'm biased. These topics really resonate because I've been leaning a lot into middle school. The idea of power, what's happening with students at the middle school level. And one thing that we really want to invite you to is our newest thing. It's our newest thing. It is called the messy middle. Middle school is a trying time. It is a challenging time and a difficult time. What we're doing right now is we're asking leaders to delve into the messiness of middle school. And this is the first article in a 3-part series around the messy middle. And tonight's conversation is going to help us understand the messy middle and then some structures beyond that. And now I am very excited to share with you. You saw his face, but here it is. It's just say this week, but here we are. Craig Aarons Martin. He's the founder of CCM Group. He's the author of the Leaders Playbook, the Brave Leaders Playbook, and he centers his work on something near and dear to all of us, joy and belonging. But he does it specifically with an eye towards Black boys. And we're going to talk about that tonight with our conversation regarding Black boys, joy, middle school, and how to really help them build agency in a structured way. So I am thrilled to bring Craig Martin to the stage right now. Here he is. Yes, there you are. I jumped the gun, but here you are. I'm so excited. Thank you for being here tonight at Let's Talk Power Live. So folks know you on your side of the fence. Introduce our folks to you on the side of Let's Talk Power Live. Tell us all about you.
What is going on, Dr. Sanji? How you
I
doing?
am so good, so good, so good.
Look, anytime I can be in your company, it is just an honor, a pleasure, a joy. I thank you for inviting me to your platform.
Well,
Hey.
this is actually, folks, if y'all don't know, this is actually me returning the favor because Craig invited me to his very official and fancy podcast. And so I was like, you know what? Now it's my turn to invite you. And Craig and I, we actually were following each other in all the social spaces. And then we had the distinct honor, I would say, of meeting each other physically in person in Ghana.
Yes.
We were in Ghana for the first time 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And boy, what an experience that was. And so I was like,
Yeah.
fast friend on the show. Here we go. So tell us about your group. Tell us about your work, and then we'll get into our questions.
Well, again, thank you so much for inviting me to this incredible platform. And I am most hearted to be here with you. I am breathing, right? Just breathing, because it is important for us to breathe. Because they're supposed to be trying us, right? They are trying us, but
they are trying us.
We've had thousands of years of us overcoming the tomfoolery of it all. Anyway, let me get on into the kiddles and the bits. Craig Aarons Martin, Capricorn, born and raised New Orleans, Louisiana, went to Dillon University. Yes, I'm a Southerner all day. And I live and reside in Boston and founded CCM Education Group. We help brave leaders strategize on ways to create thriving ecosystems. And we do that with coaching, and we do that with consultation and strategy development. And so some of the other work that I get to do is, you might have heard, I'm a podcaster, so Brave Voices in Education, like the team was on there too. And that has been an honor to continue to have really great folks give a cup of courage to the next, listener who is part of our Brave Voices family. The Black Boy Joy Summit. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, messy middle and them boys as well. So absolutely incredible work that we get to do to create a hearth and connection, like a hub for Black and brown boys to be connected and plugged into multiple ecosystems to amplify their genius by putting them in safe spaces, as well as supporting the families and educators who stand in the gap with them.
So let's start this conversation and ground it in some data, because the data tells an important story. And it's a story that is going to lead us right into the questions that we're going to ask our listeners to really chime into and think about. So here we go. This data point, first data point up here is this. Black students represent about 15% of public enrollment, but nearly 39% of students suspended from school nationally. In 2013, 2014, nearly 18% of Black male students received at least one out of school suspension, the highest rate of any racial or gender group. And then the research has shown Black students are disciplined more harshly than white students for the same behaviors and with similar disciplinary histories. So let's get into that. How does that really kind of change what you're thinking about in your work? How does it impact your work? What's going on with that data, and how does it shape your work?
I mean, I was one of those percentages. So I've been a statistic, and I've been a survivor and thriver. So I was one of the Black boys who found themselves suspended and exiled. In fifth grade, I was put out of my classroom, exiled because of my genius. I was smart. I caught on to things quickly. I was in an ecosystem where everyone knew me, so it wasn't like I was a troublemaker. I was a smart kid, genius level, talented, gifted, all of that. And I had an educator who didn't understand me and my genius, and didn't have the tools to recognize that. And I felt like that was the impetus, 10th grade, where I was like, I never want anyone else to go through what I went through. And I definitely don't want, and it's interesting. It took 4 more years for me then to realize my gifting would be teaching, because I was going to go into law, because I was like, I'm gonna prosecute her behind. I'm gonna get her.
Right. She out of here. This is going to hold jail. Okay?
I'm saying.
Yes. Okay, we're doing that.
But I had to. It took when I was 14. A teacher, Miss Madeline, she was my sub-school teacher at that, who's like, get in front of these kids, teach this lesson, and all of a sudden, this thing birth for me of I was able to get young people to be engaged and excited and motivated, and now became a role model in a way that I never planned to. And so I began my journey of saying, well, I'm going to create a safe harbor for young Black and brown boys, especially, to make sure that if they're in my care, under my watch, we will thrive. I'm going to equip you with tools, and I want you to feel brave and be able to explore all the fullness of who you are within the containers of the work that we do.
And that's an important conversation. And you know that we talk about power here, and you brought up something where you said you were exiled.
Yes.
And you were removed because of your genius, and the misunderstanding and the misrepresentation and the misdiagnosis of young people who are in these classrooms, and the instructional practices are based upon a certain type of group.
Oh, yes.
And so we talk about position. We talk about ownership here. We talk about what the work is, what's the environment, and what's the relationship being created. That's our power framework. How do we understand that power framework through the lens of the work you do?
Well, there's a few things that I'm really thinking about here. Is one,
hold on, Fred, you're frozen a little bit. Can you move your body? There we go. There you go. All right.
Moving.
Yes. Moving.
You know, just I'm trying to work with the internet. It don't want us to be great, but I'm
It
not gonna
does
let it.
not. It's a conspiracy tonight. But we're gonna win. We're winning.
Yes. I'm like, I am not going to let it take me out.
Right.
Some of the things that I think about is that we are in an ecosystem where our young people are not just shaped by school culture, they're being shaped by an entire ecosystem. And those models of power are coming from not just the teachers and our principals and coaches, but we're seeing young people being shaped by Twitch streamers, rappers, athletes, TV folks, viral clips, algorithms, group chats, and more. And so now we have young people who are really thinking about identity development inside a media saturated world, which is something that even us adults, whether or not you're a millennial, a boomer, you are wrestling with this sense of like, who are these kids and like, who are we being shaped by? And so when I think about this question of power, there's some pillars that I think about, especially in this time where I'm looking and working with young people on the ground in schools across the nation.
You froze again.
Oh my gosh.
What's going on? There we go.
Okay.
Oh,
so
I wonder if it's your headphones. No?
Can you hear me?
Anyway, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I see you.
Let me.
But now I can't hear you. Listen, this internet, I don't know what's happening in these internet streams. That's perfect.
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me now?
1 second. All right. So
I love a live stream. And I don't feel bad because I've watched Don Lemon's show and he has had the same situation. So we are okay.
Here.
Yes, there you go.
We're going to do this. All right.
Awesome. So the power framework and your piece. And here's the thing. What I love about what we'll do, this is all going to be clipped, even though we don't do all the things. It's going to be great. And so those of you who are out there, this is why I do it live, because I want to make sure that we're just having a great time. We're having a conversation, and we're having this conversation about power. So in that break, I hope you took time to hit the like, subscribe, and share button. So here we go. Yes. So the power framework.
Yeah.
In terms of your work, how does it that those pillars you were about to share with us?
Yeah. So some of the things that I'm thinking about with the pillars are, one, who gets held down and who gets to slide, right? And I think about like the trust ledger for me. And so I think about with us, we're talking about the invisible accounting system in every school. Who gets believed, who gets disciplined, whose stories get heard and elevated, and how important those folks are being made to feel and seen. And then I also think about the and that makes me think about like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and I think about Forever and those shows, and like the cultural nuances of boys seeing themselves and whether or not we are believed because of the tropes of masculinity and more. But I think middle school students largely are thinking about that as well. I also think about pillar 2 for me is like who gets mic'd and who gets muted. And so I think about agency, I think about voice, I think about what are the ways that we are also celebrating curiosity and the ability for young people to actually have different perspectives on who we are and how we show up in the world. And then my third pillar for this is around like who are we putting our young people in community with, and who is their tribe, who is their network. And so those are some of the big pillars I think about with power, and knowing that when we actually ensure that young people feel celebrated as human beings and we give them a place to actually leverage their voice. I also think about who is in their village that also helps to shape their ecosystem. And then I also think about, well, how do we actually elevate spaces so young people know that their voice, their contribution is powerful and will be leading towards advancement of their community.
And that's huge, right? The advancement of the community. And you mentioned a word that's critical to the work that I do, and you and I have talked about this, is what is agency all about? This concept of agency, right? And before we even get there, I want to share the next round of data with you so you can see what else is going on. Black boys are about 8% of enrollment, but account for roughly 1/4 of suspensions and expulsion. That is outrageous. The disciplinary gap there is huge. they're nearly twice as likely as white boys to receive out of school suspension or expulsion. And 1 in 4 Black students reported experiencing unfair discipline at school. This is what the kids themselves are feeling.
Yeah.
And they're coming at it with adults who are robbing them of their agency because, and you and I both know this, when I exercise my agency, I am possibly bumping up against your sense of authority and position as a leader in either the classroom and or the building.
Absolutely. Yeah, because what happens is you got one young person who is having a hard day, but another is characterized as defiant. You have that, that young Black man who you have one young person who's considered expressive, and then the other one has an attitude. Or one student is advocating for themselves, and then the other one is challenging authority. It's like, how are we actually? And what's unfortunate is, especially for young boys and men who look like me, a question can be read as defiance. Silence can be read as non-compliance. Humor can be read as disruption. Frustration can be read as aggression, and that self-protection that we naturally have built in can be read as disrespect. So, like, what are you expecting us to do?
I love that question. What is the expectation? Because again, as we said earlier, there is we didn't name it as this, but it is the hidden curriculum, but it's based upon a very specific way of interacting in school. And I love how you said the silence is then characterized as something other than that. That self-protection is then maybe seen as stubbornness. Right? Absolutely. And so how does the pressure of school this time of year exacerbate some of that?
Well, I think that what we're seeing right now, and I don't think that it's just this year. I think about what are some of the experiences that I was just on a call earlier with one of my former students, and we were talking about a lot of different things that are showing up for him. We're talking about ambition. We're talking about mobility and just what his dreams are about where he wants to live. We talked about code switching and masculinity. We talked about trauma, emotional containment. We talked about what is the cost that it requires to belong in spaces that require you to edit yourself. And so we see those in shows like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Bel-Air. We also see it in like Power, right? And we see young people who are being shaped directly or indirectly by systems and incentives that are around them. And so some of the things that I really wrestle with and wonder about is like a lot of our behaviors that we're seeing with young people are not necessarily shaped in isolation. And some people want to say, well, it's the parents, but I'm like, no, there's a number of adults who are in the lives of young people, and one educator, one person impacted my life to the degree that I decided to move forward in creating brave spaces versus I could have just said, well, all of these people, and generalized this and said, well, I'm now going to find myself rewarded by being that defiant, disrespectful, aggressive soul, because that's the way you've painted me. And so many folks have. And so the one thing that I have curiosities about is like, how many young people are going to experience someone who is going to redirect the vision of what that behavior is and humanize him and other young people as well, so that their story can absolutely be one of thriving.
Yeah. Talk us through your Brave Leader Playbook. That is so exciting to me because it definitely centers the leader as a power center, a core power center, right? But it does it in such a way as to build agency in agentic centered environments that don't strip away the center and the humanity of a child. So walk us through your playbook and what it's all about. And before you even do that, what drove you to it?
So this was a story of me as a first year principal being handed a school that was supposed to be turned in, be a turnaround school or transformation school or into receivership. Like, I did not know that when I was appointed, I was a teacher, and then I was a third grade all boys teacher. And I appreciate Dr. Carol Johnson, who appointed me to become the principal of the Michael J. Perkins School in South Boston. I didn't know what I was getting myself into as a 30-some-year-old Black man who became a principal.
Does
And
any principal know what they're getting into at the moment?
no, ma'am.
No,
No, ma'am.
no, they don't. They have absolutely no idea. Even if they've been trained, they still don't know.
I know. And not necessarily having the tools. So I didn't know the work that was going to be necessary in order for us to absolutely become a school that experienced 320% growth and achievement year after year, that we actually had 100% retention in our school community, where no staff member left. And the only and one staff member, the only reason why a staff member left in my 5th year was because of budget. And it was all connected to enrollment. And so like I couldn't control the enrollment situation. And so ultimately for me, the playbook, it actually gives leaders it's 10 leadership shifts, but 3 that may be applicable to our conversation today and thus folks might be curious about. I understood that these people in this community had carried a narrative that they had never experienced a championship in their life, and they didn't know what that looked like. They'd experienced a ledger of broken promises, and they were in a community where they had already been narrated as underperforming, kind of an outcast and thrown away. And so it meant that I had to go in and I had to build up the trust ledger. Who gets grace? The belief, the patience, the repair, and the second and third and fourth chances. I also had to build a brave bench who shared that power with me and who was going to protect the dignity across our ecosystem. And this wasn't just my teachers and teacher leaders, and I had my director of family engagement, but also the custodian and some of my parents who kept showing up, the bus drivers. There were some really interesting folks who were part of what I call a brave bench. And then I used data for dignity. I moved and shifted from we are going to leverage like these are the best of the best to how much are we growing over time, and embracing growth mindset as a shift for the entire community. And it took a 5th grader who had already been in 2 other schools before he got to me by October, and we started school in September. And he had told me,
wait, go back. 3 schools by October, and he came to, and school starts in, right? Because when you were in Boston. So Boston's one of those schools that begins right after Labor Day.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's between September and October is maybe 7 weeks.
It is, if that.
So that's something to really, I don't want you to breeze past that, because that's something that's really critical to think about. A child, a human being, has 3 schools in nearly 7 weeks.
Yeah. But Remy, the lesson he taught me was, he told me, Mr. Martin, like, I'm not going to be here long. Like, you just get ready. And he had his armor on. I understood.
He was like, whoa. He's like, sir, let me just help you. Let me help you. Wow.
He was like, I'm only here for a short while. Because he had embraced the story that I had already been, that he had experienced. That was his story. No one was going to love him. No one was going to embrace him. No one was going to kind of work through his edges. And I was like, well, you've encountered the right one. I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
Let's be clear. Number one, I'm totally bigger than you. So can we just start there? Can we just do the power of position and the power of body, which is always the direct opposite of me, because I'm always the smallest person that they encounter. But that idea of bumping up against that exterior, and he was in my book, and you have it, I talk about the protection of self and systems. So even he was protecting himself against the system.
Yeah.
And he was protecting a self-created system that helped him survive.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yeah. And he taught me a lesson. And so, like Oprah talks about, like, what is a lesson that I am made to learn today? And it was like, I had an opportunity to make a decision. Am I going to continue to just recognize like 10% of the school, or am I going to go for 99%?
Right.
I chose 99% because of Remy, if he ever hears this, because what he taught me was, I'm going to go out of my way to find what are the ways you're growing, and I'm going to amplify that. I'm going to put that in our on our billboard. I'm going to put that in our family newsletters. I'm going to make the announcements about it. And we found ourselves putting weekly, monthly, quarterly charts on how much has young people grown across the year. Didn't matter if you had an education plan, didn't matter if you were a multilingual learner, you just had to show up.
Right.
And from week to week, we are going to celebrate growth. And because of that, it shifted everything. And so I believe that contributed even for teachers. Even teachers had to have a growth goal. The custodian has a growth goal. So I have some photos somewhere where our secretary, the custodian, everybody in the school had a growth goal, and they had to put it in this, like, you can buy them from like Lakeshore. I'm not promoting Lakeshore, but I'm like, right. Lakeshore had like a growth
and the certificate. Yeah. Yes, we love a good Lakeshore, so I get it.
Put it up. We're gonna aim for it. And like that, everyone in the school had something to work for, and we had to publicize it. And when we did achieve the thing that we set out, we celebrated. And I think that was necessary, and it was a shift. So these are some of the brave moves that I talk about in the book, and some of the ways that we walk with the leaders in schools and teams through some of the toughest parts, and being vulnerable and naming, hey, I got to work 2 years to get one person to trust me. That
is huge. The speed of trust, and that's a power move, right? The speed of trust is a power move. That's a Stephen Covey book, The Speed of Trust. The faster you can get people to trust you, the faster you're going to get to where you want to go, right? Low trust comes with a high cost. Absolutely. A high cost of time, a high cost of relationships. So when that trust is not there, and in fact, we did a whole show on trust with middle schoolers, is really critical. But as we think this through, how does the pressure system, let's talk about the middle school mind, because we know middle school is messy, right? Listen, let me tell you what, middle school is a messy place.
Yes, I agree.
And how does adult misunderstanding on a couple of fronts, right? So let's just put race aside and gender aside for just a quick moment.
Yeah.
The brain of an adolescent is experiencing high growth, and like the brain is diversifying and shedding and spurring out things that it doesn't need. It's growing, it's changing. How does the adult lack of knowledge regarding the middle school mind layer with their bias against boys in particular, writ large, because we know the stat says that schools are 80+% women.
Yeah.
So how does that lack of understanding around the middle school mind layer with their biases? How does that impact your understanding of why Black boys might be struggling so much at this point in their life at the school level?
My wonder with this is, well, what is your relationship with men in your life, or with, right? Like, so if we're just talking about boys, what does those men represent in your life, right? And so there is, as an adult, I had to do a lot of deep work to understand, like, well, what was my father's influences in me and on me, and how does that bleed into everyday experiences? I'm a 6'3" Black man. I'm 200 and some odd pounds. I have a particular frame. And I remember being in my building and saying to my staff, I recognize that I'm a 6'3" Black man. I was an American born citizen here. I speak English. I grew up in a sometimes low to middle class environment. And I had to own that in front of everyone. I understand that some people may have been socialized not to trust figures who have these personas, who make this position. I had to name it and say, I recognize for some of you, you don't necessarily, for whatever reason, you experience something, or you've been socialized to believe that I am dangerous, that I can't be trusted, that you are criminalizing me before you even understand my name or what I went through. You don't give me any grace because you've been socialized. And look at the world we're in right now, where
socializing. That
yeah,
is, yeah, I mean, the school, that is powerful, right? Talk about instructional power. You went in with the power of your position,
yeah,
right? And you
yeah.
did some straight up owning. So you had the P and the O right off the top, which a lot of leaders don't do. They don't take the time to name that piece that people are going to really have the hidden space in their mind about, right? They're going to have that hidden curriculum. We hear all the time about, Black female leaders in buildings that have to really be very tiptoeish about their tone of voice and how they dress and how they act. And because there's this sentiment that there's something inherently negative about the way we present in the world. And so that idea of power is huge. And for you to name that is critical, right? That's a critical piece of owning it.
Well, my experience shaped that I needed to voice what could be possible. I'm like, I need you to not only understand that, yes, I've been appointed this role, but now I also understand as a steward and also as someone who was also othered in spaces early in my education career, that I need to give voice to the voiceless. And many times you have already projected whatever your beliefs and dispositions are on them. So you are going to believe that Black boys are disruptive and aggressive and this and that. And it's an interesting dynamic that we're having. And we're seeing girls, Black girls as well, also being more like hyper criminalized.
Yeah, Michelle Alexander's book. You know what I mean? We are seeing something we hadn't seen in a long time, where it was mostly boys, but now we see, like you raised, this idea of what's happening with our Black girls, right? This idea. And then we know when you are in a pressurized position, that time of year, school year testing, you want to know, did the results come back yet? You're looking at your climate surveys. You're the leader, so you got your climate surveys, you got the end of the year data. If you are in a middle school, you're worrying about your 8th graders. If you are at the high school, this might be time for graduation. Did all your kids make it? Are they filling out the FAFSA? Do they qualify? So there's a lot on your plate. And when you are in that pressure cooker, you default to the thing that you're most comfortable with.
Oh, yeah.
And that idea of behavior, of threat potential, of it's just easier to hit the audit. It's like driving a car. I cannot drive a standard car because I drive an automatic. I'm going to put my car in drive. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to put my car in reverse. I'm going to go backwards. And you know how many, I drive with one foot at a time.
Yeah.
But if you put me in the standard vehicle, I then have to think about left foot, right foot, and hand. That's too much. That's too taxing on the brain. So if I am the leader and I have all of these elements on my very full plate, the easier thing for my brain to do is hit the default button. And how do we help people get past their default buttons? I'm going to share some power moves with you, and I want to get your take on these power moves real quick. So power move, we do 3 power moves a week. So power move number 1, protect belonging before performance pressure erodes it. So what does that look like? Examine whether pressure is changing how students experience the learning environment. What are your thoughts on that?
I absolutely believe it's necessary. I don't understand why we don't humanize what is happening with young people. A simple check-in. How are you doing? How are you holding up? What is there anything I need to know about just your journey here that could be helpful for me, because I want to make sure you're okay.
Right.
That's it. Do we have a system for that?
Do we have a system for that? Notice when you talk about systems, notice when systems become more compliance centered than relationship centered. And you just mentioned that. Do we have a system in place? Right. And then preserve those opportunities for joy, affirmation, and meaningful connection. How do we preserve the opportunities? But before you even do that, how does joy not morph into misplaced compassion?
Joy is organic. Joy is organic. You can have the world here. So I've been fascinated by line dancing. And what is in trail rides, right? So you go down, look, depending on where you at and who listening.
That's right.
I don't know. It was something about Beyonce decide, hey, Cowboy Carter, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna get all our cowboy boots, we're gonna go out and do rodeo. But what's interesting is, even if you look ancestrally, if we go back hundreds of years, how did we connect? So we were in the most oppressive environment, through being enslaved and all of the things, being forced to speak a language that wasn't our own, being forced to lose all of the parts of us that made us who we are. And they knew our identity was our power. But what do we do right now? We go out, we line dance, we bring that fan out, we get them boots on the ground. We have our barbecues. We come into community. We know that when we're in community, we can love on one another. We're mutual aid to one another. And that is to speak against the system. We are finding, hey, I might not have a lot, but I have this little bit. So even in the civil rights era, right, we found that people said, let me bring us together. It could be just a pot of beans and rice on the stove, but we're going to be all right, right? And so I think that that's, for me, what joy is, that regardless of what you may be going through and the ways that the systems, multiple systems, are trying to work against you, that when we are confident and we're united, we're unstoppable. And that is dangerous for some folks.
Yeah. I have recently listened to a whole PBS segment about the continent of Africa and how you talked about it just now, saying that, our history of enslavement here in the United States, and what did we do? We came together. That coming together is DNA passed down.
Yes.
It's cultural DNA that transcends the environment, the current environment in which you find yourselves, because that DNA travels across the water. And in that PBS segment, I learned and watched the dancing. Watched how dancing was the communal way of coming together. And so that's really, really important. If this conversation is resonating for you, please let us know. Give us a comment and say, you know what? This hits home for me, right? This idea of power, this idea of community. Type of community in the comment section. Let us know what you're thinking. Here's power move number 2. Let's see what we got. Power move number 2, interrogate adult assumptions before responding to student behavior. We know how quickly the brain moves. Like the brain is moving, right? It's moving. But how can we do that pausing, examining, and asking, so that we can interrogate our assumptions before we get to naming and labeling on a negative side that student behavior?
You have to do a lot of your own self-work. Like there is no way for you to do this work with intention if you are not constantly, what are you studying? How are you making, whether or not it's through therapy, whether or not it is through affinity spaces, like how are you in environments that are constantly, you are uncomfortable and you're made to be uncomfortable, to interrogate the very biases and things, like the ways we've been socialized. I understand that there are certain behaviors that my father and mother have conditioned me to believe, and I had to interrogate about, my own thoughts about whiteness and white supremacy, and how even does it reside here, anti-blackness and being a black man, and where does anti-blackness surface and live in my space,
in your own space as a Black person. Like, can we even say, as a Black person, we, and I always make the distinction, a Black American, right? Black American has inbred anti-Blackness that we ourselves have to consciously work against. So I'm glad that you raised that point as well. Yeah.
but because right now we're dealing with like a killer Mike, and look, if we want to talk,
okay, all right, all right. See, you done took me there. You done took me there.
I'll come back. I'll come
Yeah,
back later.
bring me back, because I'm gonna tell you true story about Killer Mike. So I'm gonna come back on this. So I had, when I was doing my PhD study, I had a professor a Black woman. She was being an advisor. She was doing some work on hip hop and culture and all like that. She was studying Killer Mike.
Okay.
And she thought he was so fabulous, and he was so this, and he was so that, and she really wanted the world to understand him. And I just kept saying, ma'am, I want you to rethink this. Oh no, he's the bomb. So you just really took me all the way back. But we're dealing with people. We are dealing with people who are they're not the spooks who sat by the door, because that's been mischaracterized. These are the step and fetchits of our history, right? The spook who sat by the door was historically a hero because he was the person who warned.
Yes.
Because he was the spook, right? And people could not identify. But the step and fetch it is a completely different character that we are seeing live. I don't know, do you ever see that show In Living Color?
Yes.
All right. So we are seeing Step and Fetch It in living color right now, doing so much damage to our community. Talk about power in what's happening. People that we keep giving airtime to. And how they are infiltrating, like you said earlier, like where are we giving our attention to? The media, the social pieces, the celebrities. Our young people are under so much cognitive threat. And it is stripping away their power to make sense of the world apart from some of the nonsense, right? Oh, craziness. So here's parable number 3 for us. Protect humanity while pursuing outcomes. Create environments where Black boys experience affirmation and joy. Ensure students are known beyond behavior and performance data. And then balance accountability with humanity and relational trust. In your work, centering Black boy joy, how does this stack up to what you're doing?
So I received I was on LinkedIn, and one of my former students, it's interesting, I'm in a season where my former students, all Black boys, are reaching out to me.
Wow.
And I got gifted with this message. And so his name is Marcus. He said, "Hi, Mr. Martin. I've never forgotten you, nor the Nathan Hale. I'd love to chat." He said, I remember you brought the TV in so we could see Obama's inauguration. That was a landmark moment in my life. Despite how everything has played out in our country, I never forgot that moment. We also read his autobiography in our class and learned the quote, "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." I could not understand it then, but I understand it now, and it has kept me in these deeply trying times.
Wow. So protecting the humanity.
So for me, this is a student I had 30 years ago. Or sorry, 20 years ago. I'm not that old yet.
I am. The girl is.
This is the student I had as a 5th grader. And so if this, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. If this is what he is carrying with him, then I feel like good and faithful servant. Job well done. Because if that's what you carried with you, regardless of what else, this is how you come to me in a DM. What I'm thinking about now, and I actually talked to another one of my students, Andre, about this, because I'm interrogating, like, I recognize I might not be the exact mirror that is necessary for all Black boys to see and experience. There's multiple varieties of us as men and women and who are showing up. And there's an opportunity for us to make sure that the right people are in alignment and as part of this movement to keep building safe and brave cultural hearse that young people can thrive in. And so for me, what I think about is the architecture of my class was I always gave them leniency, or gave them I empowered them to question everything. Question me, challenge me. One student, a Puerto Rican, half Dominican, Mr. Martin, we were watching the Skip Gates special on the DR and Haiti.
Yes.
And he was like, Mr. Martin, so based on everything we've learned about the transatlantic slave movement and where we are now in our studies, doesn't mean I'm Black. Because we talked about, Africans being enslaved, coming to the Canary Islands, and that's where my people from. So does that mean I'm Black? And I'm like, that's a great question. I think you should interrogate that with your family and talk with them about it. But to know that my catalyst for work is I want young people to be empowered to ask questions, to challenge authority, challenge it with good ideas and sound facts. I want you to be creative and innovative and think outside of the box. I'm okay that I will apologize if I've done something wrong or if I've made you uncomfortable. I give you the containers and structures and systems for us to talk, engage. You can say, hey, I'm not having a good day, or I need this in order for me to just be. And these other things are going on in my world. And I don't know whether or not we're giving space to that. Do you know how powerful it is for a young person to feel like, I know who to talk to. I know the tools I can leverage. I know who will guide me in these tough moments and get and actually model what I need at this time. And when we do that, it's powerful.
We don't do that because to do that means that my position, that POWER, right? That position, the ownership, I have to then interrogate what my understanding of ownership of work is, the ownership of the work. I got to think through the environment that if I do that, if I do what you just described, using your instructional power, folks, I share that definition every week. And what you hear right now, Craig saying, is actually the embodiment of instructional power. That space to ask, to push them, to challenge you and question. If I do that without having interrogated my own sense of my power center, where do I learn about power? If I do not have that pre-work done, I'm not ready.
Yes.
We talk about agency. Agency means you got to be ready. And too many folks are not ready for students to truly be agentic so that they can be empowered to live their own lives. So this was supposed to be 30 minutes. It's been longer than that, but we're going to blame it on technology because technology owes us some time. So that's what we're going to blame it on, the technology. Folks, this has been an incredible conversation. We learned about how to make sure Black boys have joy. We learned about how to connect bravery and brave leadership to the empowering and agentic environments. This is not just about test scores and outcomes. This is about the human experience we say we want for kids. So Craig Ahrens-Martin, thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with me. How can folks number one, please make sure you have liked, subscribed, shared, get us to our 200 subscribers. Do it now. Go ahead, Craig. How can they find you?
Oh, well, I'm Craig Ahrens-Martin. So you just Google that, but you'll find me on LinkedIn. So I'm Craig Ahrens-Martin. I am Craig Ahrens-Martin on Instagram. The book is braveleadersplaybook.com. And let's connect. Let's have that coffee. And if there's a way that I can support you and just one cup of courage or one move forward, please reach out. Let's go.
Love that. Guess who's going to be with me next week? I'm going to show it to you.
Hey.
Dr. Chris is coming up next week. Dr. Chris teaches math. You already know he's got a brand new book out. So please join us next week. Again, Craig, what a joy. What a conversation. We will have you back. Love that you were here. And stay tuned, folks. Another session of Let's Talk Power Live. Have a thankful Thursday on purpose.